Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here. In today's video, we'll be doing a review on VRising, so let's get into it. Now, VRising is an action RPG meets survival base builder game, and you'll play as a vampire that is awoken from a long slumber, and you must rebuild your power and kingdom to defy Dracula. And so when you start off the game, you'll begin very weakened and without any items or weapons, and you'll need to explore an open-like world and gather resources so you can eventually rebuild your home base and new castle and start to grow your power. And so the game revolves around collecting resources, building up your base, defeating bosses, and repeating that cycle to continue to grow your kingdom and improve the powers of your vampire. And so there's all kinds of different resources that you'll find around the world, things like wood, stone, copper, blood essence, animal pelts, and much more. And you'll use these to build out your castle. So you'll start off with some basic stuff like building a castle heart, but eventually as you gather more materials, you'll be able to build walls, craft item stations, coffins for yourself and your followers, weapons, armor, and much more. And so throughout the game, you'll be hunting down special enemy types, and after you defeat them, you'll be able to feed off of them, drain their blood, and use that to unlock new vampire abilities and powers. This also will often lead to new crafting options and items that you can build within your castle as well. And as you progress and feed off of these boss enemies, you'll be able to unlock multiple different spell types and abilities for your vampire as well. And this allows you to really mix and match your ideal abilities to fit your play style. As you progress through the game, there's also a wide variety of weapon types that you can craft and equip to your character. Each one of these really has their own unique play style, as well as different abilities and advantages and disadvantages. So for example, you can craft swords and spears and axes and clubs. And the axes, for example, are much better at chopping wood and gathering that resource. And clubs are more suited towards gathering resources like stone and copper. There's even weapons that do ranged attacks like bow and arrows and much more. And so you'll need to strategically equip your character with the best loadouts and armor to fit your playstyle and to combat these challenging bosses. Now the combat of the game is very fast paced, and as I mentioned, it has that action focused, and you'll be taking on a variety of enemy types as well as challenging bosses. And this variety really keeps you on your toes. And as you go on these different hunts trying to take down these far greater enemies, you'll really be pushed to the limits and need to strategize more effectively using your abilities and weapons. Now when it comes to crafting in the game, it also starts off pretty simplistic, but over time it continues to expand and become much more complex. And so you'll start with a few simple things like a sawmill to make wooden planks, which can lead to building more high-level equipment and new crafting tables and workshops. And over time, as you hunt down these major enemies and feed off their V-blood, you'll learn much more complex items like advanced weapons and armor, more complex castle structures, and more advanced workshop pieces. Now I did enjoy this crafting feature, but it did feel quite complex and it had a bit of a learning curve to it and took a good amount of time to really understand what was going on. And you'll need to figure out what workshops build what materials, what enemies drop certain items, how you can craft those together to form more advanced items to create the equipment that you really want. And so it took a bit of time to figure all that out. And I was even a few hours in before I figured out that you could check out the map and find different locations that might hold specific items you may be looking for. And so I kind of felt like I was constantly discovering new things and better ways to play and more ways to craft more efficiently as I progressed throughout the game. Another interesting element with crafting is that this is how you actually power up your character as a whole. You don't really gain experience from killing enemies, for example. Instead, you need to craft more powerful weapons and armor and equip them to your character, and that will, as a whole, level up your overall equipment level. And that's really how you determine what enemy bosses you can challenge. They have a level associated with them, and it can give you a good idea if you could survive that encounter with that boss fight. The game also features a day-night cycle, and this is kind of fun as well. and can make exploration a bit more challenging. Again, you're a vampire, so if you try and venture out during the daylight hours and get trapped in the sun, you'll actually combust into flames and take massive damage and most likely die. So if you're traveling around during the daylight, you really need to be stealthy about it and stick to the shadows if you hope to survive. So a lot of times you'll need to strategically plan how you want to explore the overworld and when you want to take on the boss fights, because the last thing that you want to have happen is to run out of time and have the sun come up and destroy you mid-fight. So this takes a little bit of strategic planning as you progress through the game as well. You can make a coffin at your base and rest there until nightfall, but it is more of a real-time strategy type game in that sense, where you can't just pause it or fast travel to night or anything like that. So you need to be a little bit more strategic with how you explore the world. Now there is a pretty big world to explore, and there's several different biomes with different environmental features and enemy types. And as you progress through the game, you even have the option to move your overall base and castle to different locations around the map as well. So as you further progress through the game, this can be a great option, so you're not having to backtrack all the way across the map to get back to your base. The game also has several different modes to it, so there's different difficulty levels you can play in. You can play more of a solo game in a solo server, but you can also play with other players. And there's almost like two modes within this as well, where you can be playing more cooperative with other players, working together to take down enemies, and surviving together as a whole by forming alliances, or you can play more of a PvP mode, where you need to actually defend yourself against other vampires. And so depending on what playstyle you enjoy, that can determine your experience as well. I mostly stuck to the solo mode as I was more so looking for more of a casual experience, but it does have those multiple different options you can choose from as well. They do also seem pretty on top of this game with releasing new updates and added extra content to it as well. And so there's quite a bit of content after you beat the mainline bosses within the game, especially if you're going into that PvP mode or playing with other players. I definitely think you could sink a lot of hours into this game if you really got into it. And it's really fun and addictive, but it doesn't necessarily have the most robust story to keep you engaged with the game. So I think you're really going to need to like the grinding aspect and base building elements and hunting down new challenging enemies to keep you engaged with this game. It does have a bit of a learning curve, as I mentioned, so it may not be the best fit for more casual RPG players, but if you're looking for an extensive vampire-themed action RPG with base building elements and some cooperative or PvP elements as well, I would definitely recommend checking out this game. But let me know in the comments below, have you played this game yet? Does it look like a fun game to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you did want to pick up a copy of this game, I'll have a link in the description below where you can do that as well. And another really cool way you can help support the channel is we partnered with a game store, Nutmeg Games. So if you like board games, Pokemon cards, Magic cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and more, head to nutmeggames.com/nerdproblemsgaming and use the promo code nerdproblemsgaming at checkout. You'll get 10% off your order and help support our channel at the same time. So if you want to take advantage of that great discount, be sure to head there as well. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.